Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode number 301. Holy crap, we've hit 300, and this is number 298 in a row. It's 298 weeks in a row that we have done this broadcast. I have a lot of fun doing it because I get to have great individuals on it that I learn. And honestly, I am very selfish, and I ask questions that I need answered. And so who knows what's going to come out of my head today, but today is Keri Shull. Keri Shull is team leader, entrepreneur, and a whole lot of things. We're going to let her discuss that. Welcome, Keri.
Thanks, Dave. I'm so excited to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Yep, and here we are. We're going to get started. But first, Nelson, hit the tape.
Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team.
And here we are. Good morning, and it might be afternoon somewhere, but I know it's morning in most places. Good morning, Keri Shull. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Having a good morning.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been in Florida for a couple of days and just having some fun. Been working via Zoom, and technology has made us all neighbors no matter where we are. And as we get started, I'm going to ask you the first question that I ask everybody in all my broadcasts.
Okay.
Real Estate Talk TGIF. What does TGIF stand for?
Thank God it's Friday.
You're so close, Keri. Thank you so much for giving it a shot. But most people are going to know the answer. Thank God it's finale. So
there we go. There we go.
Staring you right in the face. I mean, a lot of people, I don't understand it, but anyway, thank God it's me. Here we are. I want to welcome everybody to Real Estate Talk TGIF number 2301 with Keri Shull. Keri, I ask everybody this to start every broadcast. What's your story? What's your journey? I mean, where did you come from, and how did you get to where you are today, the entrepreneur of a great team, great business, and all the things that you do?
Well, I'll take you way back first. So I grew up moving a lot, Dave, and I think that that shaped how I operate in business today, because I understand intimately what it's like to be someone moving a lot. I started at Penn State in college, and I bring that up because I was recruited from being at Penn State by a new home builder. And that's what caused me to move to this area. And I feel very blessed that my story began in the new home sales side of things, because the training was phenomenal, and it helped me to understand how much I actually liked working with clients and the process. And I was able to sell hundreds and hundreds of homes and condos because of that. And then in 2008, I had this opportunity to go ahead and go into the resale side of the business, but I was doing it from the perspective of working with a large investor. So my mentor came to me, and there was an investor that had somewhere between 30 and 50 million to invest in real estate. And they wanted to buy short sale and foreclosure bulk homes in our area and then sell them 3 years later. Which, if we all had a crystal ball, we all should have done that back then, right?
Right. That's right.
And so when my mentor kind of went through the math with me, I saw what a phenomenal opportunity it was, and I jumped ship. But the one thing she said was, hey, if it doesn't work out and he doesn't buy this, I'm out of here. I'm not going to be a real estate agent. I've already done that in my career, and I have enough money to retire. And so you're on your own. So we all know where the story's going. 3 weeks later, he bought a hotel with that money. And I was on my own, and I woke up, and I remember like the first morning waking up with the realization, like, I'm a real estate agent and I have to figure this out. Just laughing in my bed, like, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think there's a lot of people who in their journey into real estate, they end up here for whatever reason. And then they go through this period of isolation. So I just want to say, I'm so impressed that you're doing this podcast to support and broadcast to support agents who might find themselves in the industry and not quite knowing how to gain traction and how to be successful and what they need to do. So my story, I kind of ended up on the resale side of things by accident.
Right. Okay, great. So you went through a couple of different things and you realize, okay, here I am. I'm in this business and I got to figure it out. And you found yourself, wow, this may not have been the thing that I really thought it was going to be. And holy shit, what do I do now? So how did you figure it out?
Well, I think the first 2 years, quite honestly, I did a pretty shitty job figuring it out. I was successful, but knowing who I am and my potential and the fact that I had a background in new home sales, I think I could have been a lot more successful, but I was kind of floating because I wasn't getting the right mentorship and I wasn't in the right rooms to learn from others. And I wasn't listening to podcasts. I was walking around the halls. I was at a Remax at the time. And I was walking around the halls of the Remax trying to talk to any agent that would help me and give me an answer. And that was even more isolating because the agents that were super busy and successful didn't really want to take time to help me. And the agents that were not succeeding were the ones that were giving me advice, but they weren't successful. And so in 2010, I got a junk email about a real estate conference. And it was the best decision I made in my career to go to that conference because I met all of these real estate team leaders and they gave me the social proof that I needed to know, wow, I can grow a team like that. If these people can do it successfully, so can I. And that's what started my actual journey into really being an entrepreneur and treating real estate like a business and growing and scaling an organization like I have today.
Okay. So just so everyone knows, I mean, you and I first met, we were actually hiking on a trail. We hiked for 7.5 hours.
A mountain. It was a mountain.
It was and the reason I bring this up is for a lot of reasons. To know that you and I do have, we have spent time together and we know each other, which is not always the case on my broadcast. But you said the right rooms, and you're probably saying, Dave, why'd you see the room? You're at a mountain. Because we were at an event that was the right room.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, all conventions, all seminars, and all these things can always be the right room. It depends on your mindset and what you're going after. And it could be someone that's horrible. And honestly, I don't think I think anybody that's doing an event is horrible, so you're going to be in the right room. It all depends on what your mindset is. So we were in the right room. We got to interact and actually support each other mentally and physically up and down this hike. It was a 7.5 hour hike. I think we went from 4,000 feet to almost 10,000 feet and down. So it was the right room that day. And it was the right room for the event. And there was nothing isolating about what that was because it was all for one and one for all, which is where most places need to be. And when I say places, I mean brokerages. So you've taken your career to a point right here where, you went to this event and you're in the right room with a lot of people. And the one thing you did not get at that event was unsuccessful agents giving agents advice on how to do business. And I've gone through this whole thing of talking about the right rooms and everything to that point, because that is where 80 to 90% of agents live.
Yes.
Right? And the reason I do what I do with this is always to try to help that person I talked to this week or the idea that I got from books I'm reading and where I am, because I work with, I personally work, truth be told, I'm an eXp Realty agent. I work with the Align team in New Jersey now as their growth manager. And, we're just having some great times doing boot camps and stuff and working really well. And it's the right people giving you the right advice. So you went to this event. You got, should have silenced that before, sorry. You went to this event and you learned something about that you were going to be able to do it as well. What gave you the impetus to be able to think that you could do it and then actually start doing it?
Well, one of the exercises we did, and I still remember it, there was a heart on the screen. And the person who was facilitating the event said, in order to make the right life decisions about where you want to move, you have to understand your why. And we all hear that, right? But for me, even at that point earlier in my career, I knew I wanted to be a mom. And I knew that I wanted to be a mom who had the ability to be present when I wanted to be present. And so having the freedom to build a career where I got to work when I wanted to work and I didn't have to work when I didn't want to work, and I had true uncapped financial potential. What I saw with these team leaders and the social proof was I could accomplish all the things that were important to me when I really thought about my why. One of the other ones that's pretty deep for me, because I moved so much as a child, having a sense of community is really important. And I watched real estate agents go in and out of the business, during my first 2 years before I went to this event. And what I craved was deeper relationships with people I could have a lasting impact with. And so what I saw in a team is, wow, if I create this team and I help people make a lot more money and have a lot more success really quickly, I'm going to be able to have a sense of community that's a more stable and permanent presence in my life, where a lot of agents are working on a transaction with somebody and then the person buys the house and they go buy the house. Some of that was kind of triggering that sense of isolation that I had as a child as I was moving and finding my way. What I saw for a team is like it solved so many different elements of what was important to me and what I wanted to create. And I felt when I left the event, the very first event, I had a sense of clarity of what I needed to do, which I'm happy to share the exercise that I did to get that clarity.
That would be great. Would you?
The exercise I did was actually writing down everything I did in a week. And then I circled the things that I did not like doing or was not good at. And the did not like doing is a really important piece, because I think when we are our highest and best selves, when we're living in a state of truly being fulfilled by our career path, we're doing the things we love doing. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be pieces of it that we don't love, right? But when you keep figuring out how to delegate the things that you don't love and how to do more of what fills you up, everything thrives, right? So the first exercise was actually using that list of everything I did and figuring out what I could delegate to somebody who would be my right hand. And one of my personal beliefs is that there is no one size fits all coaching program. I actually hate one size fits all. Early that first event, I ended up hiring that coach. It was Craig Proctor, and I have a lot of amazing positive things to say about my experience there. But one of the ways they approached the coaching conversation with me was to say, hey, Keri, you will need to stay in the ISA position, the inside sales agent position. That'll be the position you keep the longest as the team leader. Now, for me, that was like acid on my soul. Wait, what? But
That's
Craig
funny.
is a really high DC. So his disc, he has the dominance to close people on the phone and the C to be able to like have all the details and focus on the inaccuracy and following the system and all of those things. Well, he and I are not wired the same. So that advice wasn't the right advice for someone like me. Had I taken that advice, I'd probably be selling jets right now or doing something else, because I don't think I would have stayed in the business. And so the way that I've approached helping team leaders scale teams, which is a big part of what I focus on today in my career, is look at the individual strengths and weaknesses and figure out how to put them in the strength zone by having them surrounded by the other individuals that strength zone or their weaknesses. That helps to have everyone have more fulfillment and just faster growth.
So you have agents that you figure out their strength zones and weaknesses. How long does it take you, Keri Shull, team leader? How long does it take you to figure out what your agents coming into your team are strong with, or have their strengths and weaknesses? How do you do that?
Well, I think that there's something to be said for the difference between the agent's strengths and a team leader's strengths. Okay. So most of the time, what I find that I need to be most assertive about in the process with a new agent. At first, prospecting is not what agents love doing in general. There are few of them that say, hey, I love to sit at a desk and make phone calls all day. The same feeling I had of acid on my soul back then is what they have. But guess what? To grow the business, I had to go through the phase where I was my own ISA at first. The difference is because I had a clear path out of it in my initial, couple of hires, 3 of those hires were all ISAs. So I didn't have to sit in that position for long, but I had to embrace it all the way, because if I wasn't good at it, how would I train people to duplicate what I was doing to grow? Right?
Right.
So when a new agent joins my team, instead of focusing on their strength zone, and this is just me being very honest, I focus on them adapting to what I believe will cause success for them the fastest. And I teach them that the path to being able to operate in their strength zone is actually doing the hard work that gets them there. Because most of them enjoy meeting with buyers more. But it's not the case. In the olden days, I used to have all these ads. Hey, come work on my team. You'll have appointments on your calendar and you won't have to worry about making calls. Well, today, I think the market's changed. And team leaders need to create a culture of calling in their organization from the day someone joins. Because in addition to ISA appointments, you've got to make a lot more phone calls and work harder to cue the appropriate amount of opportunity. So that's kind of how I think about it. I'm trying to get them over their fears, over their roadblocks about prospecting. And as fast as possible, I'm trying to have them have early success when they're still in our onboarding program, in getting opportunities for themselves on the calendar, because they are taking the risk of having those conversations.
Okay, so what does early success look like, and what are they doing to get their early success?
Sure. So we have 159,000 opportunities in our CRM, and part of our onboarding program, they learn the scripts and the conversations and the talk tracks, and they get really comfortable with our CRM process on day 1. On day 2, they come in and we have an exercise that we do. I'm a huge dork, but I think it's really fun. It's hot potato scripting. So I'm teaching them how to actively listen, because a lot of what people fail at on the phone is not listening all the way to the other human. They're so concerned about what they're going to say next that they're not listening. So the hot potato game, I can throw anyone the hot potato at any time, and they have to pick up the conversation where the last person left off. So they have to listen really, really intently to succeed at that. And they have to know the script well enough that they can jump in with the script. So early success is being able to take that foundational knowledge. And then we have success times blocked. Success time is when they are in the CRM and they are dialing. They're dialing. I'm looking for them. Whoever gets to the first 10 appointments starts getting ISA appointments first in my new group. Okay. So if they're booking appointments in those first couple of days, that's early success.
That's great. That's fantastic. And you're aiding them with stuff that's already in your CRM.
Yes.
Right. And how are you holding them accountable?
So that's a good question. And I've gone back and forth over the years with am I too harsh is the wrong word. Am I too systematic in how I have accountability? And for a few years, I was a little bit less forceful about how I did it, because I didn't have to be. In 2021, deals were hitting you in the head if you were in the room, right? But today, you have to be, as a team leader, from my perspective, accountability is love.
Yep.
So if you let people join you and then you give them cookies and pats on the back when they're not actually doing the hard work, it's a disservice to you and to them. So for me, they're sending daily reports in onboarding where they are in a group. So there's 15 people in the group that joined me in March, right? All 15 of them are responding to the same email chain where we outline our expectations of what they should have taken away from the day, the lessons they should have learned. Here's the recap, right? And then we say, please let us know the number of dials you had for the day, the number of live conversations you had, and how many appointments you booked. So there's social pressure there, because if they start seeing, oh gosh, everybody else is booking appointments and I'm not, doesn't make them feel good. And I'm telling them, hey guys, this isn't a 40-hour-a-week job. So you're in training 40 hours a week. And our expectation is if you're not succeeding, you might have to invest more time than some of your peers in practicing the script and making more phone calls until you get comfortable. We are looking for you to hit 10 appointments by the time you leave training. And we're not going to book you ISA appointments until you have a proven track record and have booked 10 appointments. So we have all of these structures built into how we hold them accountable and then how we give feedback. So often when people aren't getting the result, what do you think they do, Dave? They're not getting the result. What do?
They're quitting. They're not doing it.
They quit or they make excuses.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. So often, like we had a group of 10 ISAs that we started the first day of March as well. And we fired 2 by the 3rd day. And then we sat with the rest of the group and we said, hey, this is what we're looking for. And when we find that someone doesn't bring our core values to the table, they're lacking. One of the big ones for me is optimism. So if you're complaining during training, you're out of here. Like, I'm not interested in that. That's not in alignment with who we are as a group, right? And I don't like when people bring up challenges without solutions.
Right.
So we just try and have really clear expectations coming in, and we evolve that every day. And then we try and continue to calibrate so that it's very clear to the group what we expect is what they're going to do if they want to be here.
Yeah. So when we talk about optimism, I think that's a great word. It's something that's rarely heard in our business. People are motivated. People are inspired. But optimistic is something I haven't heard. And I want to read a DM I got from one of the people that I'm working with over the last couple of weeks. And it was about determination as it's in you. How did you figure it out, or what did you have to do to figure it out? And he says, it's in me. I'm determined to live a better life than my parents did and live my life to the fullest. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I look at that and I say, okay, this is like a great point that everyone needs to see and think about. Is it your why? I don't know if it's your why. Is it your purpose? I don't know if it's your purpose. But what I can tell you is that if you've got something driving you that's inside you, great. And Keri, I'm going to be really honest with you. I mean, for me, I think the purpose or my why has been like all over the place. We actually, I think, had a conversation about that, right? And it's like I kind of figured out what it is these days, which is really cool. So if you don't have something, what I say to everybody out there, if you don't have something that's totally driving you, or something you get this or maybe that, not just I want to make a lot of money, it's okay. But if you find something that you love doing and you can do with the camaraderie of the team, I think that's the other thing, right? So you said you brought 15 in this month to work and on your program, which you're going to go back to as soon as we're done here. Talk to me about how that process has worked. You talked about the ISA when they get 10 appointments, they get ISA appointments, and they're working on buyers. What about the other pillars of business like sphere of influence, FSBOs, expireds, all that stuff? Talk to me about that and what's the most important to you when you are working with newer agents.
Yeah, I think let's talk about the sphere of influence for a minute, because I think a lot of times agents are really hurt. So if you're listening right now and someone in your sphere of influence didn't choose you and it hurt you, I just want to address that directly.
Great.
Imagine for a minute if you were observing this and it was a friend of yours, not you, and that friend used to sell cars and they just got into real estate, and one of their friends was about to make the largest financial investment of their life. And the friend thought, oh, I love Sarah. Sarah is amazing. She embodies, she's loyal and she's trustworthy and she's super smart. But she's been selling cars for the last 10 years. And I really feel uncomfortable with the largest financial decision of my life, Sarah, practicing on me.
Yeah.
Okay? So I want to put this in context and perspective for some of you, because I'm on a group called Lab Coat Agents. And I
Mhm.
cannot tell you how many times people are like, my best friend did this to me. My
Uh-huh.
best friend didn't use me. Like, I'm never talking to her again. I'm like, whoa, what? Are you kidding? Like, you are brand new. And your sphere of influence is different than somebody who's coming through as an online lead that doesn't understand that the last 10 years you spent selling cars or at home with your kids or doing whatever you were doing. And so I think sometimes for new agents, it's really tough because emotionally, it's like a knife when someone doesn't use you. But if I were that client, no matter how much I like you, I probably am not picking you if you're brand new. So I bring that up because I think a lot of people spend all this time focused on their SOI. And I'm not saying you shouldn't focus on your SOI. Absolutely. You should focus on building deeper relationships, getting in front of them, showing how the value that you provide is different. But you have to have other pillars of success, other pillars of business generation that you're focused on. And I think a mistake agents make, Dave, is they go all in on one or two things and they're not going wide enough in their level of focus. So I'll give you an example. I personally believe you should identify 5 pillars of success in your business. So if I said, okay, my sphere of influence, I'm going to go deep into what that means. I may decide I need to find a way of developing a larger sphere of influence of people who I didn't know before that don't understand I've recently made a career transition. So one of the things I did in my career, I joined a company that brings together C-level executives to brainstorm about their business. The name of that organization is Vistage. So some people know about BNI, right? Think if instead of you were going with all these people who are starting, businesses or in businesses like BNI, what if you wanted to go to the top of the organization and focus on being able to support all of the people who work for them and them? That's how I approached it. And so I was in the room with 20 entrepreneurs. Now I went there to learn, I went there to grow, but I ended up doing a ton of transactions because of being in that room. So don't limit your thinking if you're new to this business on like, okay, now I'm going to call expireds and withdrawals. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to think about, well, how else would I expand? How else would I be in the right room? Another example, there's an organization in my area called IES. It's Institute of Excellence in Sales. Well, we're all in sales. And guess what I know about salespeople? They tend to make a lot of money if they're good, right? So
Yes.
I found an organization that trained people to be better at selling that met at 7 a.m. once a month on Friday mornings. Those are my people, right? Those people are getting up to grow and to learn, and they are usually the top producers in sales in every organization. So I went and I learned. And then as I got to know that group, I was like, okay, I'm going to invite my team to this. So then I invited my team. Then I invited a video crew. And so then we would go to the event, we would network with all the people, we'd invite them to have a small roundtable discussion afterwards where we talked about all the principles and we film it. And then we use that as content to attract other agents. But naturally it changed my, the perception of the value that I brought to the room. So I ended up being awarded and having all of this clout in that organization, which helped me to get even more transactions done. Does that make sense? If I was a brand new agent, I could have done the exact same thing.
Yep.
Right? So that's how I would say I want people to be creative that come to my organization. I have them door knocking every week. So you can try these high level things, but if you're trying to get business tomorrow, you got to get in front of people who are looking to buy or sell now. And that's the hardest piece of it. It's a numbers game. You have to be bold enough and brave enough to share how you create unique results for your clients. And you have to be consistent about having new conversations. Open houses are a pillar for all
Yep.
of the new agents that join my team.
100%.
It's, hey, a ready, willing, and able person is leaving their home and going into a house. Anybody who tells me open houses are a poor use of time, I would question whether they should remain in this business, because they must suck at having conversations. Like, if you can't sell someone a house that's went on their phone and screened the price and figured out the pictures and said, yes, this is worth my time to visit, something is wrong.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm gonna say that if it was 30 years ago and you were doing open houses like they did 30 years ago, then maybe you're wasting your time because you didn't bring anybody in. Now with technology, and it's made us all, information geeks because we got to know everything, right? They're going to spend the time coming in, which is that I'm going to say, you know what? I firmly believe in the sphere of influence and all the other pillars we've already talked about, but open houses is going to get you in front of people right away.
We talk about like now money and then like long-term building. And I think the key for any new agent, don't just focus on the long-term. Too many new agents are like the shiny object, like, oh, I'm going to focus on Instagram. And you see them, they're doing all these videos, they're TikTok in there. And guess what? They may get a lot of followers, but the number of people who are going to decide to use you as an agent because you can dance on TikTok, probably not many. A lot of those people don't last. So make sure that you're mixing in the actual activities that get you in front of ready, willing, and able buyers fastest with those social strategies. And the social strategies, from my perspective, social media is a really valuable tool, but most new agents aren't using it the right way. Right? They're using it to get attention, but they're not using it to actually get buyer and seller's attention. They're just building a massive audience.
Yeah, they're getting attention, but they're not getting the attention that they really want with people picking up the phone. And I'm gonna say it comes down to one thing, and I know you're gonna agree with me. And it's a simple question. Would you agree that the single most best way to have now business or to get people to interact with you is by the questions you ask?
1000%. Yes.
Right. Because you said it. If you suck at open houses, it's because you don't know how to ask questions. And there's and that is a way to build, believe it or not, it all comes back to sphere of influence as well, because when you start connecting with more people, you're also going to be connecting with more agents. There's so many ways to build that sphere of influence. It's not necessarily family, friends, acquaintances, service people. It's also the people that you go after to interact with and ask questions. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So basically what we're talking about is 5 pillars. So, okay, Keri Shull, tell me, what are the 5 pillars that most agents should work on?
So I think SOI is always one.
Yep.
Here's the other thing I think about SOI. We do an exercise on our team where we identify what we call whales. Okay. So let's imagine that I have a friend or family member that works in a position that enables them to refer a lot of business. So they are a recruiter at a hospital. Well, somebody that's a recruiter at a hospital that's bringing doctors to the area, they may be able to give you 10, 15, 20 referrals a year, which for some of you, if you're watching that's more transactions than you do in a year.
Right.
So pay careful attention when you're thinking about your SOI. You're going deep enough into how to utilize the relationships that you've built to get business in a consistent way, right?
Yep.
So SOI, I would put like channel accounts or corporate accounts as one of the pillars that I think every agent should look at and try and build, but that's not an immediate. That's more of a later long-term business. Open houses. So sphere of influence, open houses, personally, door knocking. Now, let me share why. Because I think that when you have a client that wants to buy, part of your responsibility to that client is finding inventory that's not on the market right now. Because if you just sit back and wait, they're going to get discouraged. They might end up not buying. And it's a transaction that was winnable, that you didn't do the right things at the moment that you could win it. So you can get listings that way, but you can also help find a property that your buyer is jumping up and down, and then they're going to give you a bunch more of repeat and referral business, right? So eventually every agent should have repeat and referral business as a primary pillar, because your clients should love you and you should do a great job staying in touch with them.
Right.
And then if I were brand new, I would be trying to do sponsorships, volunteering, working like my kids' school. That's another area where you could do a really good job. I even thought about, like, my kids have a talent show this week, and one of them asked to do 90s theme. If I were doing it again, I would have gotten all the kids in the class really loud branded stuff that had our logo on the back. They would have eaten it up, and it would have been free advertising, right?
Right.
So there's lots of ways to be creative in your business. I think it is absolutely imperative that you have a system. So for us, we do circle prospecting, we do expireds and withdrawals, we do landlord calls, and we do prospecting in our CRM. If you don't have any leads today, figure out a way to get leads, right? And if you don't have the budget, don't say in your mind, some of you are saying, that's easy for you to say, Keri, you have the money to do that. I don't have the money. Well, find an agent that's retiring that wants to give you a book of business that there's no one else to work, and start working alongside them to take over their book of business, right? Get creative. Find a loan officer that doesn't have time to call the lead and ask them if you can help on their behalf to get some of those leads ready to get pre-approved so they can make more money and you can make more money. Don't let your thinking stop with just the traditional ways of generating business. There's a lot more.
Awesome stuff. Now, look, we're against time here. I want to just thank you so much for being on. I'm going to ask you a question, and then we're going to get to the point of being done here. And the first question is, you've been very helpful in this broadcast. You've given out a lot of great nuggets. And what I love about what I do is that it's always a different opinion, and it's a different twist. It's a different perception. And that's what you've given me today about sphere of influence and the other things that people need to get. You've looked at door knocking, and that is in search of off-market properties. Just a different perspective. That's all. I mean, most people aren't thinking of it that way. They're thinking of going to get a listing when they knock on a door. Yes, that is it, but it's a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. And I have two things. Number one, the question is, how can I help you grow your business?
That is an interesting question. Any scripts that are working? Do you do prospecting, Dave?
Yes.
Any scripts that are working really well for you, I would love you to share them. I'm constantly trying to upgrade and test different things that we're doing. So I'm always curious to learn about that.
Yep. I'm bending over because I'm writing a note. I'm going to send you some scripts I've been using and some scripts I have developed that are kind of stupid and crazy. And that's why they work, because they interrupt the pattern.
Beautiful. I love it.
I love those. So now I'm glad I can help you. I want to thank you again for being on it. As you know, when we were hiking, you saw my hat and said, how do I get one of those? I said, well, you've got to come on the broadcast.
Yay.
And here it is. And here's the hat.
I love it.
I want to thank you so much for being on. We got another great show for you next week for 302, and a lot of different things coming up. Got Hosprat coming on in the future. We got a lot of different things. And Ryan Young, a fellow, coming on in a couple of weeks. So we got some great stuff coming on. Keri, thank you so much. If you stand for just 1 second as we go off, we'll be ready to go. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Hit it, Nelson.